All right, perfect. Well, welcome everyone to the first ever live stream of Scrubs to Success. We got Brenda Villafranco here. I'm Miranda Whitmire. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves, Mimi and Art?
I'm Mimi Lee.
I'm Art Basco.
And I'm Brenda Villafranco.
Awesome. So, Brenda, did you say this was your first ever live?
Second, it was my first with 3 more people. So I did my first live back in the summer, and that was interesting. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I know. This is the first time I've ever done this many with live too. So thank you everyone for being patient as we figure that out. Just cut that first 2 minutes out. Well, I guess as we get started, Brenda, do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and where you are at with your real estate journey?
Yeah, no, absolutely. First off, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate you guys just wanting to hear my journey. So it's actually funny because the background is where it all started. And so I purchased a property 2 years ago, had no idea about real estate investing, or my entire career has always been healthcare. And that's all I've ever really known. So my background is ER nursing, and I worked myself up to leadership. So now I'm a hospital administrator. And I purchased a property 2 years ago. And when they say that Instagram's algorithm works, it really does work because that's how I was sucked in. After I purchased a property, which is the one behind me, I started to get algorithms over Bigger Pockets. And from Bigger Pocket algorithm, I just started listening to them. Had no idea they had podcasts. So I downloaded all 4 of their podcasts and just started listening to the one about, being financially free. And as I listened to that, getting ready, like in the morning, I was just binging it. And I told myself, like, this is something that I can see myself doing. Like, ordinary people are doing this. Like, what makes it so different for me? And I decided, like, okay, well, I kind of just like allowed the summer to kind of, see what I was going to do next. And I ran into an ad about Pace's community. And so I looked into it, and that's kind of what really started the ball rolling. So then, like in August, I took a Zoom call over doing some private money lending. And that's pretty much, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and pull the trigger and take the risk, because I'm sure I've wasted more money on things that are not even like an asset. And I looked at it as like, okay, if I do this and just take the time to do it and really take some action, then we'll see how it goes. And that got the ball rolling to like doing private money lending.
Oh my goodness. Awesome. You said, so your first one was 2 years ago, you said?
Yeah. So it's 2 years ago would be in April.
Wow. And how many deals have you done since then?
I've done over 25 deals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've done about 25 deals now. Yeah.
Are those all private money lending or
private money lendings have been about 15, and then like transactional lending have been about 18, going on 19.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did you get into private or real estate investing? From what made you kind of like
I really was looking at it for like extra cash flow. Just whatever supports my traveling needs. I like to travel a lot. And so that's always like, you're trying to get flights with like points and things like that. So I'm like, okay, like but my strong why was really just because, my parents came to this country from El Salvador. And so they don't have like the 401k investing that we have. And so one of the things that I wanted to make sure was, okay, will I be able to support them if needed? And so that's kind of been like the deep end why to that, and what made me go full force on it. So when people say like your life can literally change in 1 year, it really can. And so if you go full force for like 4 to 5 years, then it's really there's no limits, to be honest.
Wow. And what made you kind of transition that way rather than, what you see other people doing is the flipping, the wholesaling, the, long-term rental game?
I think it was more of a time. So I work full time at the hospital. So my shifts are 12 hours long. So I don't have the time to pick up a phone and cold call people. Like my phone is always going off. And so one of the things I said, okay, if I'm going to do this, if I can put 15 hours a week on my days off and connect with people and build those relationships, then I think that's doable versus like me having to like go find contractors. That's like more of a headache. So I wanted to make it as passive as I could possibly do. And I feel like that's been like my best niche for me so far.
I think it's the same reason for me too, because when I heard about Sub 2, I was diving into investing in real estate. I'm not, I don't know if I can do that or I have time. So, which is great because when I saw one of Pace's video about the Avatar series, where you kind of find your personality and what fits for you and your situation, like, oh, I can't do this, and you know how to find that, and then like, oh, the Gator program, the Gator method, which is lending, doing lending is kind of like appealed to me better. So that's why I started there. And from there, you can branch out to other stuff, but at least depending on your situation at the moment, I think that's, what got me into it too. So,
Yeah.
awesome.
When you say lending, do you lend with a group of people or is just yourself?
Both. So, yeah. So when all my deals, I usually collaborate for the most part, unless my funds are tied up in another deal. But usually when I do, I usually partner up with someone else. Not for the fact of just like receiving money from a transaction, but you never know, like that other person that you decided to go half and half on lending, like you guys can just build a relationship over time and just see how that comes about from another relationship. And so, yeah, I try to collaborate as much as I can.
100%. Awesome.
Are a lot of your lending deals, are they where like only accredited investors can do it? Like, are they equity deals or are they debt deals too?
No, you don't have to be an accredited investor. If you wanted to start out with, let's just say 25,000, 50,000, then you do not have to be an accredited investor. It's just over time, this past year, I've taken the time to build those relationships and nurture those relationships. So I personally fund for these investors and will continue to fund for them.
That's incredible. What's like right now? What's your kind of timeline for these deals? Is it like 3-month turnarounds, 1 month, years?
They're usually 6 months. 6 months turnaround. Every now and then we'll get 4-month turnarounds, but that's the average deal is usually 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the return percentage? Sorry.
What's that?
What's your return percentage that you get back?
10 to 12%.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
12%. That's like the usual.
Some people, a lot of medical investors, or not even investors, but medical professions, they save their money and they put in CDs and they only get about 2 to 5%. So getting back 10 to 12% is amazing. And that's what we are trying to teach the community for the medical professions.
Yeah, I think, just like we were talking about, Art was saying how he doesn't have the time, right? You don't have the time, like you work the 12-hour shifts as well too. And I think that's probably the best route for someone that doesn't want to worry about something, but actually just put their money in to make it work and then receive something at the end of 6 months. That'd probably be the best route to go, in my opinion.
Yeah, most definitely.
Like on a realistic time frame, like how much do you feel like time you spend on each one of these deals, like vetting it and analyzing it?
An hour? Like it doesn't like it depends, right? So like if in the beginning it didn't take an hour, so like now because I have those relationships nurtured, like it doesn't take me long. I can just hop on a Zoom call, get on a call with them. They talk over their deals, so it's not something that takes me long. Initially, I was like scrambling, like, oh, I need to see the ARV on this flip, or what is this? And so I had like other people that would help me again, like, which is why it's important to build relationships because you can count on someone and like, hey, you're more of an expert in this area. Can you help me with the underwriting to see if it's a good fit for me to lend on.
That's incredible. You guys, that's like 2 Grey's Anatomy episodes like length. Analyze the deal.
That is so true.
Right. Yeah.
So most of our audience, like some of them are not investors yet, and who are starting to want to get into investing, and with their busy schedules and their jobs and everything. What would be your kind of like? Could you kind of give a tip or like your step that you take to get into what you're doing right now? And also when you're doing that, can you explain also what private lending or private money lending to the community as well, for those who don't know what private money lending is and how you got into it?
Yeah, so basically how I got into it was I joined a community, and it was Pace's community. And so there's people that do either fix and flips, or they want to rehab. They purchase properties and they rehab. You can come in so your hard money lender will only loan to you a certain amount of percentage. And so that investor still has to come in with the gap funding, right? So you're basically funding for them the gap of what is needed. And so that can be either something between 20 to 80,000, 100,000. It can be as small as 20,000, just depending on how much they're actually purchasing a house. Because some people actually do more on the high end, and then some people just do like single family. So you come in and you bridge that gap, and you fund that deal, and then you would get a percentage for that, and you would sign obviously contracts that will secure your funding. And so that would be private money lending in a sense.
And you, like you said, you're not funding. Are there cases where you're funding the whole deal, or you're just funding like that gap, that bridge?
There's cases where I'm funding. I have one right now that I'm funding the entire deal. It would be a first position. And so it's one of my borrowers that I have funded for in the past. And so he's going to fix and flip that house as well too.
Okay. I'm glad you mentioned the first position. So when you're doing the bridge lending, what kind of protections and what position are you in, or what kind of collateral do you have?
That would be in second position. So, and the security for that would be, you would have contracts like a promissory note, which is just basically saying like, hey, I promise to pay you back your money and to make sure that your money stays secured. And then there's a deed of trust as well too.
Okay. Do you ever get like personal guarantees?
Yes.
Or no?
I do get personal guarantees as well too. Yeah.
Okay. Love this. This is all great. Thank you.
Another, I guess, for most like in healthcare or anybody starting in investing, one of the most common challenge is the funding, or where the funds come from. Could you tell me more about how you get your funds, or how you go about funding deals?
So for me, funding deals, so there's 3 ways. My own liquid that I had, right? So I had my liquid sitting in a savings account, a high yield savings account. So it was getting like 3 to 4%. And then, so I used some of that liquid. And then now I'm working with a company called Fund and Grow, and they basically help me get business lines of credit. And so I was able to get, it's into 3 phases, and they get you credit cards at 0%. And so you're able to put those into deals. So for instance, for my first business line of credit, I received a business line credit of $65,000. And so I was able to put it into a $50,000 deal. And so that's at 0%. And so you don't have to pay that back until a year later. So you can put it into 2 to 3 deals, right? Depending on how long they are, and be able to like pay that off and still make some extra cash with it. The third option, which is like, I've noticed a lot of people when I talk to them, is they have money sitting in an old 401k that, you know, they were there at a job for a decade and they left that job and now they're at a new job. And so that 401k is just sitting there and actually not making any money. And so what you can do is transfer that over into a self-directed IRA. And so you don't get taxed for any type of lending that you do. but everything comes back to that same account and you just recycle your money over and over. And so I have a self-directed IRA account as well too. And I've had some private money partnerships that I'm currently in.
That's incredible. Do you have any recommendations for the self-directed IRA companies that you use?
I use Equity Trust. Yeah. Which is like, they announce it pretty often, like at the Aspire event tours. But I got that from like my old financial advisor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So. In how long did what was that?
I said so far they've been pretty good.
Okay.
That's good.
What's how long of a turnaround time is it for a Roth? Like, do you need to make sure you have a week, 30 days?
I would say at least 3 to 4 weeks. 3 to 4 weeks, like from the moment you transfer to the moment everything's completed. It took me about 3 weeks, but that was like in between the holidays. It was like last November, December. So it took them about 3 weeks. Yeah, so it doesn't take long.
Yeah, so guys will solve the problem for people who are like, oh, I don't have cash, I don't have anything to, funds to lend right now. If I'm going to go private lending, and then I don't know, and it's like a limiting belief, like I don't have money. There are a lot of ways to tap into resources that you have currently, like Brenda said, your old 401k, if you have like an old job you did, and instead of like withdrawing, a lot of people make a mistake of like taking it out, they get penalized 10% and you get taxed on your current tax bracket. But if you roll it over to a self-directed IRA, you don't get any of those hits. So, and then also you can lend into real estate or private money, or you can buy a set down payment or buy a property with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's actually so many avenues to making money.
Mm-hmm.
It's
great ways. Yeah. And I love that you brought up partnerships earlier too. So if someone who is wanting to get into this, and I know, like, how many partners do you have? Like, do you only partner with one person, or do you have like a group of 3 to 4, someone to analyze the deal, someone to bring the funds? How do you decide?
I have probably like a good circle of 5 to 8 people.
Okay.
That, like I pretty much, we bounce ideas back and forth. We try to see how we can collaborate. And so, yeah, I would say I have about, even on the transactional lending side, I have about 3 funding partners. If I need to fund a large deal, then they can come in and take care of that as well.
Awesome. Yes. And I guess, where can people find these deals to invest in?
They can contact me. They can contact Art. I get a pretty good amount of deal flow for private money lending at this point. Like, I wouldn't even have to go out there and like find deals. They just come to me because I build those relationships. And so if they're ever interested, I always have a pretty good amount of deal flow.
Yeah. And also like advertising in social media and all that stuff, people can like, know that you're into it, and then they, can easily, like see, oh, I'm going to go to Brenda, or we're going to do this person, because you're always putting it on your social media and stuff. And that's why it's important. So
yeah, absolutely.
I was going to ask, are those deals mainly in Texas, or is it just all over the nation?
All over the nation: Florida, California, Texas, Ohio, Alabama, Tennessee. Yeah, they're mostly like in the southern states, but I rarely get Texas ones, to be honest. And I live in Texas.
I rarely get Texas.
Yeah.
Of course. That's the nice thing, right? You can literally just invest anywhere and be anywhere. I love the flexibility.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, do you guys want to do the deep dive breakdown into your amazing $5 million deal? I need a bell.
Nice. Excited
ding,
to hear
ding.
Okay. So pretty much I've moved. I'm still doing private money lending. That's just something that I have, like, I've just recycled my money, but I moved into the transactional lending niche back in June, July. And so what I decided to do with that was, okay, let me focus on transactional lending, because I feel like it's a good way to just down niche on that. I always heard like, oh, it's so hard to like find leads and yada, yada. And I'm like, I'm going to give myself 90 days to focus. And if I focus for 90 days just on transactional lending, I want to see what kind of breakthrough I get. And it was crazy because just within like 30 days, I got my first like transactional lending deal.
Wow.
And so how that happened, it was just by like word of mouth, right? So like people don't know if you actually don't tell them what you do. And so you always have to like market yourself. And just by me telling someone at a real estate meetup, like, hey, I'm doing transactional lending, I can fund EMDs, I can fund double closes, reach out to me, and just building those relationships over time. So what was funny about this 1.5 million double close, and for anyone that doesn't know what a double close is, it's basically usually used for the audience of like wholesalers. So you have a wholesaler that wants to do a double close and they need me to fund for them. So say for instance, there's for just like even my $1 million deal, it was the wholesaler wanted to sell for 1.5 million. And then as the double close, he brings an in buyer to purchase this property for 1.8 million. And so his spread is going to be $300,000, right? Minus, of course, like what he pays me and my funding partners. Okay. And so when they do that, it's usually a transaction that is within 2 hours. And so within 2 hours, you have an A to B contract, which is the wholesaler's contract, and then you have the B to C contract. And so that in buyer has to put in his funds first in order for my money to be secured. So once it's in escrow, then I can come in and provide the 1.5 million. But how it happened was actually as easy as someone sending me a direct message. And so they sent me a direct message and they said, hey, I have a double close that needs to be funded. Can you do it? And I was like, yeah, sure. And so, we talked about it and he went ahead and just like submitted it under my website and it got going. Okay. That was it. I went back and I asked him and I said, what was the reason that you reached out to me? And he said, I already had reached out to other people, but they weren't fast enough. So yeah, so that pretty much is how that happened. So it was like I went out and grabbed this lead. It was just a moment that my speed was just faster in response. Mm-hmm. And so we discussed details connected us to like title, and they told us the details of when he was planning on closing. And it was scheduled to close on December 27th, but it got pushed back to the 31st. Mm-hmm. So all of that was like being handled while I was at the beach. And I just got like a message saying like, hey, it closed. So the moment it closes, title company goes back and wires back your money along with your return as well too. So, in essence, yeah. So usually it's like, so for that deal, it was a 1.5%. So it was about 22,000 in 2 hours, right? And so split that with like the funding partners. So I got like 5,600.
That's incredible.
Pretty much. Yeah. So while I was at the beach scrolling, that all happened behind the scenes within 2 hours. That was the easiest 2 hours of money that I made. So it was pretty nice.
Wow. Forget the nurse's salary at that time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, what kind of systems and processes did you have in place that you felt like helped you be able to do that transaction on the beach?
So definitely, I joined a school community called FunWise, and so they teach you how to be focused on transactional lending, and so they have funding partners as well too. So if you ever needed to double close in large amounts, I not only have that community, but I also have 2 more other funding partners that can do that large amount of transactions that I've built relationships over time. So money's not the option. It's just a matter of finding those deals.
Yeah. Wow. Like you said, money loves speed.
Right. So basically, this deal, you didn't have to put in your own money.
That's correct. Yeah.
And you made that much in 2 hours.
That's correct. Yes.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Wait, you didn't need to put in your own money because you had that community.
That's correct. Yes.
That's the power of community right there.
Yeah.
You're just the middleman. You just connected the community with the deal. I love this.
Which is why I was scrolling at the beach while this was all happening.
Wow. 4 episodes, guys. 4 episodes of Grey's Anatomy, and she made
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Wow. Okay. And was that your first type of deal like that before?
My first big one like that. I had just had my first double close maybe a month prior, 3 to 4 weeks prior, and that one was like a 90,000 deal. So I made $1,000 back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that usually the percentage with transactional lendings, like 1%, 1.5?
1.5 to 2.5, just depending on what they're charging. But that's about the normal range. Yeah.
Okay. And when you do the transactional, do you go back and forth between using your own money and just connecting them with the community, or do you always only do connecting with them with the community?
Depends. I only use my own money with people I actually know.
Okay.
Yeah. So if they need transactional lending and I know them personally, I build that relationship, then I will fund that myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if not, then you connect them with the community.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
That's awesome. For those who don't know about the difference between transactional and private money, would you be able to kind of
Yeah, so private money lending leaves out of escrow and out of the title company, right? It goes into the borrower's hands so that he can continue doing his rehab and purchase whatever he needs to fix and flip the property. Where transactional lending, the money never leaves escrow. It stays there regardless. And so depending on which one you do, so if you're doing like an EMD, earnest money deposit, then that money stays in escrow until the inspection period is either over or close to over, so you can get it back as a refundable, or until like the property actually sells.
Interesting.
Awesome.
Okay.
And you said you get 1% back from
for EMDs is different. So usually people charge anything between 25 and 40%.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So like you can make more money, but there is a bigger chance of fall throughs on the EMDs.
Higher risk, higher reward.
That's right. There you go.
the money is protected under escrow since in the escrow. So the only thing I think you have to look for is the type of like the what's that called, Brenda? If it's like a state that does not, you have to double.
Double close. Like if it's like illegal to
yeah,
do
for them, it's not like you know they can't refund you the money for other state if it's I forgot.
If it's non-refundable, you're talking about like a mutual release date.
Mutual release date, yeah. There you go.
Mutual release date. Yeah. So like with earnest money deposit, the entire point really to how to secure your funds would just be to make sure that everything is in email with title companies and whoever your escrow officer is. Then you make sure that they are aware that whoever wires the funds for your earnest money deposit, that it comes back to the same bank account that it was wired from in the beginning. And at any time, I have gone through where they're like, oh, no, we can't do that. We can't send that back to this person. It'll originally go to whoever the wholesaler was. And then if they say that, then you'll either have to talk to your wholesaler and see, we'll have to try another title company because they're not going to budge.
Is that because the laws are kind of tightening around wholesaling right now? And it's kind of affecting this? Or has that?
I don't think so. I just think it just per title company, like you would think they all have like a certain standard, but they're all you'll run into a title company like, oh yeah, don't worry, like we'll send it off back to you. And then you run into another title company and they're like, no, we're not going to send it to you. We're going to send it to the original person that's on the contract.
Right. Yeah, that happened to our deal too. We sent a wire because there were 5 of us funding the deal. So the title company that we sent our wires to, we're like, how come there are like 5 LLCs? So they're not unfamiliar with creative finance. So other title companies are not. So they were like, oh, we squashed the thing. So we had to look for another title company that is able to understand the process and why there are like different people wiring money to them. So, and that's why Base created a title company that's, also for just focuses on creative financing. So
it's really important to have a title company on your side in all transactions. Being a real estate agent, I deal with that a lot. So we're always trying to get a title company that you're familiar with, that they're familiar with your style and will back you up in any transactions any failures that may occur or any problems that may arise, then they will always have your back. So knowing your own title company and also your title rep is truly important in all real estate transactions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think there's a the new title company that's creative title. So like in the future, right, you'll just be able to send that to creative title and they know creative finance. So it will not be hard for you to have those transactions done.
Yeah.
Can you use that title company anywhere, like in any state, or
it will be nationwide? Yeah, they're working on having it nationwide. So there will not be an excuse to like not have creative finance.
That's incredible. And how did you kind of did you analyze the deal before you sent the funds?
For transactional lending?
For the 1.5 deal?
No, you just look at the contracts to make sure they're signatures. Like the signatures are that person. And, and then really with those kind of transactional lending, what you vet mostly is the title companies. And so you vet the purchase sale agreement and you vet title companies, because there's been like in the past where people have tried to like scam and they try to use like this non-Google title company. And so you got to do your vetting on that. Yeah.
So you don't even have to look at the deal to like analyze it to see if it works.
You'll look at the contracts. Yeah. You'll look at the contracts to make sure they're signed with like an A to B contract and a B to C contract. And then that's pretty much it. And then the rest is vetting the title company.
Oh, I see. Okay. I'm so used to private money lending. I'm not used to the
so like with private money lending, like you still get a title company, but you're pretty much vetting the borrower, right? And you're making sure that your paperwork is in place. Where like, because transactional lending, your funds don't leave escrow, you don't have to do that.
Okay. What kind of risks come with that? Are there situations where you might, you said it was a little bit riskier because you might not get your money back. Like in what cases does that happen? Like why would you not get your money back?
It comes down to communication. So some people will call the title escrow manager or whoever is taking care of that file. And then over the phone, they'll say, oh yeah, no worries. Yeah, we'll do it. And then the escrow officer, like there was never a paper trail. And so you never want to call them on the phone. You always want to just keep everything with email so you can have the paper trail. So in case if something does happen where they say, oh, we can't return your money, it's going to go to the original person on the contract. You're like, no, because on 1/11, you said that it was going to come back to my bank account. Yeah.
And okay, so I can see that happening, like that being a problem with the title company. But I guess with like the deal itself, do you know like some reasons why it might fall through? Like does like a buyer back out, do you lose your money? Or if a seller backs out, you lose your money?
Most of the time, if the deal falls through is because they couldn't find an in buyer.
Okay.
Or they couldn't find an in buyer on time to like where they can extend the close of escrow and inspection period. So from the moment you sign the contract, to the moment the wholesaler signs the contract, if they do not have an in buyer 24 hours prior to that date that my EMD goes hard, then I have to pull back and get my refund on my EMD.
Yeah. And then if you don't, you put in there and they don't find an in buyer, that's when the seller gets your money and that's why you don't get it back.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah.
How often does that happen to you, Brenda? Or has that happened to you yet?
That has not happened to me, no.
Oh, great.
But I've heard stories on happening to people or logistics with like communication. And so their money is still tied in escrow.
So I guess like there's a certain amount of trust though that you're putting in with the EMD since they don't have an end buyer. Or have you ever lent on a deal where you know they don't have an end buyer and you're just kind of trusting them, or have they always had an end buyer ready?
Yeah, but only with people I trust and build a relationship with.
Okay.
Yeah, like they know they have an end buyer already, or they are the end buyer, and so I know that they're going to pay me back. Yeah, which is why I feel like nurturing relationships is really important.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah. What's one of the biggest, I guess, mistakes or misunderstandings that you feel like people make when getting into this lending era?
Probably not educating themselves enough.
Okay.
Because even with me, like when I first started, I have no clue. No, I was like, what's a promissory note? I was like, so it's just like I would have to look that up and like, see what that is. And there's some things I don't know, right? But what I have learned to have worked for me is that the more I take action and actually do it, the more I learn. So like regardless, if I can sit and watch videos about it all day, but it will not stick to me until I actually do it. So I just do it.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Best way to learn is to dive in.
Yeah, there you go. No, for sure.
Do you see yourself continuing on this private money lending and transactional lending journey, or do you ever see yourself buying more properties?
I think I'll do both. I think I'll always be private money lending only because that's what the banks do. Right? Like, so I feel like why not I be the bank and just do that as well too. I think it's like the most, once you have it pretty much where it can automate, then why not keep going is really the question. But yeah, I do want to buy more properties. So I'll be buying a property at least by Q2, and then I may buy another one at Q4. So I'm shooting for 2 this year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have a retirement age, or when do you plan on transitioning out of the nursing field?
I'm not sure. I really don't know, to be honest. I know like people send me messages and they're like, "You're still working?" Like, what? Like this whole time, like I had no idea you were working. And so I'm like, oh no, I still work full time. So
right. So full time meaning, do you is your job like 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, or like 8-hour shift? Or
I actually have a pretty sweet schedule. So like I work 12 hours. So my shift starts every Wednesday and it ends every Wednesday. So every other week I have 6 days off. So I focus on real estate on my days off. And then on the days that I work, it's hard for me to focus. So I usually have calls like after work and I try to squeeze in like 2 calls after work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you day shift or night shift?
I'm day shift.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I did my fair share of night shift when I was first a nurse. So I did it for like 6 years.
Oh, wow.
I'm 7 on, 7 off right now, evenings, and I love it.
Yeah. So there you go. Because then you can like travel and do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Without using PTO, that's the best part.
Yeah. So like it's funny that you mentioned that because for 2020 COVID, we couldn't go anywhere because the hospital was blowing up. And so I was always the person that loves to travel. And so my PTO bank was always at like 10 hours left, like 10 PTO hours left. Like at one point they brought me in the office and they're like, so you put in for PTO, but you actually don't have anything. And I said, okay, you don't have to pay me. Like I'm just still going to go on this trip. And so 2020 actually allowed me to accrue so much PTO, and I finally used it like within the last year.
Oh, awesome.
Those conferences took up all of my PTO. Yeah.
There's a tax.
Very well worth it. Yeah.
What do you think was your biggest challenge working, in the healthcare or your job, and getting into what you're doing now? Kind of like, what was the hardest part of it, getting into it, when you were just transitioning?
Starting out? I think sacrificing a couple of hours like in the evening. So like I rarely watch TV because I'm usually like, well, I should probably be hearing a podcast. I don't know. Like I should probably be talking to someone, like networking, or so become accustomed to that I'm so used to it at this point that on my days off, like I try to book my afternoons for networking calls. That doesn't stop. Like I continuously network and continue to do so. And then I try not to do anything like on the weekends. But then when I'm off like Monday and Tuesday, then I still have like the afternoon calls. I still have, I love just meeting new people and see how I can provide value to them. And maybe I can give them something. And if I don't know the answer to it, I can connect them to someone that actually does.
Right. And that's why we also have this community too for like the healthcare workers. So if they don't know what to do, then you can always reach out to any of us.
Yeah, they can reach out to any one of us. Absolutely.
We do have a question in the comment. Christina asks, how is the money you make from lending taxed? Is it with your W-2 income?
No, it's separate. It'll be like a separate LLC, which I'm actually working on this weekend because I have my CPA appointment for my taxes coming up in a month. And so, yeah, it'll be separate. W-2 will be separate as well too.
Okay. It's considered active income or passive income?
It's supposed to be passive, but for transactional lending, I believe is active.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if, and you said you're not able to deduct, like, I guess, deductions from that transactional lending. Like, you can't deduct that from your W-2?
No.
Okay. Can you get real estate professional status or no from this?
I don't think so. Yeah.
I think you have LLC set up too, right? It's just under your business name, then you can deduct all the trainings that you went through, the payment, for getting into the community that you're in, mentorship, and all that comes with it. So that's something to kind of offset the tax.
Yeah, I'll clarify that with my CPA coming up in the next month or so.
Okay.
People look out for the answer on her Instagram. I'm curious. Okay. It's a good question, Christina. Let me just check. Make sure there is. Okay. She said to clarify when she asked that question, she's wondering if you know what the percentage would be at tax rate wise, since it's separate. Is it just like a regular 15%?
It would be.
Does anyone know?
It would actually be based on the tax bracket that you make off of the active income.
I was going to say that. Yeah, it's based off the tax bracket. So if you just made $30,000, then it'll be taxed at whatever percentage that is. But if you made over six figures, and depending what you
got it, and that's separate from your W-2 completely.
Correct. Yes.
It's a 1099.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Good question. Let's see. So he says, as you refer that rollover from 401k from old employer to self-directed IRA, is it any tax or penalty to pay out front?
To pay up front?
When you transition?
No, I'll have to look at my statement. I think there is like a fee when you initially roll over. It was like, it wasn't anything big. It was like $200, something along those lines. And then there is like a yearly fee that they will actually, and they send you like a message about it too. Like, hey, check out your end of the year statement. Here's our fee. It's not a lot though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good questions, guys. Okay. I think we got all the questions. If you guys have any more questions, put them in the chat now.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you want to add? Tips, tricks, things that you've learned throughout this whole process?
I think that for me, just starting, I don't know everything, and I'm just continuously taking action. So for the person that feels like, oh, I don't know if I can get into something like that because I don't know everything, just do it. Like, just reach out to any one of us, and we can always like set up a call and see if you're like a good fit for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you do multiple deals at once, or are you only doing one deal at a time?
No, I do multiple.
Okay. How do you kind of keep track of it? Like Excel or?
Yeah, Excel.
Oh, yeah.
Excel sheet.
You don't have a fancy app or anything?
No.
Like, I wonder if it's out there.
It was like $1 Etsy Excel sheet, to be honest. I was just like, oh, I need an Excel sheet, but I wanted it to be done where I can see like the month and the annual. And so I just put in like my income, my expenses, and then it shows me like each month how I'm doing. So There's no excuses. You could use paper and pen, but it would just be all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't seem like you really need like a fancy app to keep track of it, right? Like Excel does the job. It's pretty easy to keep track.
I think if I had like 20 deals a month, yes, then I would need something where I'm like, okay, I really can't keep up like when I'm going to get paid out. Like I really need to have a CRM to make sure that everything is up to par.
Okay. Perfect. Well, I think you've answered all my questions. Art, Mimi, do you guys have any last questions as we wrap up?
I have no questions on my end.
How can people get a hold of you? And
Instagram is probably my best bet. I'm
Okay.
always on there all the time. So Brenda Builds Wealth at Instagram. And you know what? I just thought about it. We all should collaborate on a deal sometime.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
definitely.
100%. Yeah.
That'd be
Yeah.
cool. So
That'd be exciting.
Yeah.
We'll definitely do that. And yes, you guys, please, if you aren't already following her, please do. Brenda Builds Wealth. Her content's amazing, and she's got some exciting things coming out soon. I won't say, but I'm excited for you.
thank you so much. I appreciate you.
All right, guys, let me just check the chat one more time. If you have any last minute. Nope, we are good. Well, thank you so much, Brenda, for coming.
Thank you so much.